Welcome to the official podcast of Cardinals Nation 24/7. Each week, we put a unique perspective on bringing you the latest news, updates, and rumors of the St. Louis Cardinals baseball organization. Join the nation and stay informed by liking us on Facebook, following us on Twitter, subscribing to us on the podcast form of your choice, and most of all, by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Thank you all for supporting the nation. Let's get things started. Here are your hosts, Jared Redwine, Chris Lawless, and Larry Cox.
Hello, Cardinals Nation, and welcome to another Cardinals Nation 24/7 podcast. I'm Jared Redwine, joined as always by Larry Cox and the one and only Chris Lawless. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Guys, it's been a week since we've got together last, and that video podcast is our number one in terms of views up to this point, so it's had a great reaction and a lot of activity, so we appreciate everyone for checking it out. Thank you again. We're one away from 250 subscribers at this point in a very short period of time, so it's another exciting milestone. And as Chris mentioned last week, along with that and everything else, the number one Facebook group that's dedicated to the St. Louis Cardinals, basically. Chris, will you take a second and hash on that again real quick, just kind of give everybody an update of where we're at?
Yeah, we hit a milestone last week where the Facebook page, Cardinals Nation 24/7, we've got over 60,000 followers on it, so that's pretty amazing. And recently our Facebook group has hit, I think it's 36,600, which became the largest Cardinals-related fan group on Facebook, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, even over the official Cardinals Facebook.
Yeah, I know they haven't been around quite as long as we have, but I think the
that's not for people with details that don't matter, Chris.
Yeah, we've got them beat. Yes.
Well, that's actually pretty amazing, and it didn't even really register for me last week when we were talking about it. But I know, like Larry had even mentioned it as well. But Chris puts in a lot of time and effort and work to make the page a success. So we appreciate all of his hard work. We appreciate everyone for joining and liking the page and liking the group. And real quick, I wanted to kind of get this out beforehand because a lot of people pay more attention early. If the group is not something for you, like already we were just talking a second ago before we went live and started recording here, that a lot of people are already talking about, Arenado, was 0-2 in his first game. He's not worth it. If that's the kind of stuff you don't want to see, then follow us on our page. Same thing, Cardinals Nation 24/7. We just post official stories from the Cardinals, KSDK, the Post-Dispatch, and also some of the freelance writers that are friends of ours too that write quality stuff. Chris shares a lot of that, videos in regards to the team, but it's all official. It's nothing that Chris or I either post. Nothing is done by the fans or anything of that nature, so you don't have to worry about filtering through and dealing with stuff that you don't want to see. So, if the group, if you like that kind of interaction and that kind of stuff, which is a lot of people do, obviously, going back and forth, exchanging ideas and thoughts and friendly banter, of course, keep it friendly. But if it's not for you, then go over to the page where you just want to keep it basically legit, as we would like to say, and just see official updates and news and still follow the team closely. So Chris did that for a reason, to cater to both, group types. So both have done well and have taken off extremely well. This YouTube platform has done well for us in a short period of time. So thanks to all of you, obviously, and thanks to Chris for his hard work. And without that, we'll jump into our next episode here. To start us off, we're going to cover a little bit of spring training news. And the first thing I want to mention to you guys is, obviously, Miles Mikolas has been pushed back. They say it's just precautionary, but as we all know, precautionary becomes to an injection of some sort, a second opinion from a doctor, missing the start of the season, to having some kind of minor procedure. With him missing last year, it's a little concerning. So, Chris, let me take it to you first. Your thoughts on Miles not being quite ready yet, or precautionary? You think it's just being precautionary? You think there might be a little more per usual, or maybe we're just being paranoid?
I mean, it's easy for us to get a little bit concerned with it. We've talked nauseum basically about the amount of young pitching that we have and being able to fill a spot, if a player does come down injured. I I know not pitching for a season, there's going to be a lot of rust there. And if he's not completely healed at this point, I mean, that's a lot of red flags that would immediately pop up. I can see that they wouldn't want to throw him out there and it be something minor that turns into something major. It doesn't hurt to be precautionary with him, but as far as being concerned with it, I think all Cardinal fans should have a little bit of concern. But again, with the amount of pitching that we've got, I don't see it as a major setback. I know he is slotted as a main piece of the rotation, but I do think that it's better safe than sorry to kind of ease him back into the role.
Yeah. Larry, what do you think? What are your thoughts on Miles not being quite ready as far as precautionary? And then does it concern you, I mean, with the arms we have, or you think there's more to it, or you think maybe they're just giving him extra time because they have that depth?
I mean, we want to see him get stretched out in spring training, see what he can do. But again, I mean, how many years did they just did in the backfields? You didn't really see those guys. They can always pitch against, inter squad games or what have you. So I'm not really overly concerned. I would rather see them, like you said, err to the side of caution. We have the depth. We have a lot of kids that could pitch. We discussed that, verbatim last year in our last episode of all the depth that we have, the pitching wise. Maybe this opens a spot where a kid like Jake Woodford or one of those kids get a chance, get some innings in Major League and gives him his confidence, and we can see what they can do, Or maybe Chris's hero, Acevedo, steps in,
Yeah. I'm a little concerned because he hasn't even faced live batters at this point. And it seems like every time we go through this with the Cardinals organization, they say it's just precautionary, and it never becomes precautionary, it becomes something else. So you have to think, though, with the depth. Okay, let's say, just for fun here, Mikolas is going to miss the start of the season because there's already 90 less innings this year. They've already shortened the spring training schedule. Managers will try to find a way to make some of that up, but then I was surprised. Today's game I watched, they only went 7 innings. They didn't even go a full 9. So they're really cutting the innings back. So you got to figure he's going to have less and less chances to see live action, and they're not just going to throw him in a game. So let's assume Mikolas is not, going to make the opening day rotation. Chris, you've got Flaherty, who's going to be your opening day starter. Waino, who looked good today, only needed 20 pitches to get through 2 innings. He looked sharp. And then you're going to have KK, who's going to be your middle of the rotation left-handed guy. So you got 2 spots to fill out now. Who are your 2 pitchers to round out the rotation?
Well, I know we've talked about before that Daniel Ponce de Leon and John Gant both would be vying for their chance to start. I know we've all expressed wanting to see Alex Reyes get a chance. It would not surprise me if the Cardinals think that this is an injury that is more, not a short-term thing. I also think that Jake Odorizzi being available in free agency might be a move that the Cardinals would go ahead and jump on if this injury seems like it's more than just a minor thing. If we're going in-house, I think John Gant would probably get maybe that first opportunity with Ponce de Leon, available as well.
Yeah, I like your comment there, and I like what you said about Odorizzi because he is available, and the longer a team like the Cardinals have a question or two, and the longer he sits out there, the more likely a deal could be made to where he would fit in quite nicely in place of Mikolas, and then they don't have to rush him at all. Larry, question to you too. Who are your 4 and 5? Your 4 and 5 starters rolling out today if we don't have Miles Mikolas? Chris mentioned Ponce. He did pitch 2 innings today. Looked pretty good. Had a couple strikeouts, a couple of walks. That's to be expected in this first appearance of spring training. Liberatore made an appearance today, and they were even saying Danny Mack and Edmonds were saying how they expect him to make his debut sometime this season, as we also talked about in our prospect episode. Seems to be very likely. Woodford made an appearance, and then Webb. This Webb has came in and looked solid, but I don't want to get too off base. But Larry, you got to make your 4 and 5 starters. Who are your top picks? Who do you see running out that rotation if Miles is not ready to go?
With the good news from Hicks throwing and Miller throwing, that kind of frees up really Carlos Martinez. you could possibly start him at the 4 or the 5, give him that shot. Then I would right now. I mean, Gant, I thought he looked really well in the day before yesterday. I thought he looked sharp. Um, then, like you said, you always have Ponce, maybe a Libator, but I don't see them really rushing him in this early in the season. I could see if something happened, then that'd be a July or so. But I would say probably Carlos, Ponce, and probably Gant are the top 3 candidates. But like we even discussed in last episode, maybe you go by opener, use an opener, and then that gives the door to like a Cabrera or somebody like that to come in and open the game. And you could go to a totally different way with that number 5 spot. Because how many innings are you going to really lean on, for Waino, are you really looking at for him? We all know he likes to go complete games a few years ago. We know what happened. So I would say probably Carlos, after the Caribbean League and all that, his results from, being positive, I would say that's the guy that I would look at for at least one of those 2 spots right now.
Yeah. Who would be your other guy? If you had to name
Gant. I would say Gant.
Okay.
I would give it to Martinez and Gant. Those are the 2 guys I would look at. Ponce has always been that guy I like. I always see him more of a long relief guy.
Piggyback kind of guy, maybe a doubleheader, start a game kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. Or like I said, if we went with that opener, maybe he comes in and throws you 3 or 4 innings.
Yeah, it's kind of like we were talking about too. Some of these guys, they want to make it to the big leagues, and then unfortunately they get pigeonholed into positions. That's kind of what's happened to Gant the last couple of years. He was a starter, and then injuries, he kind of got stuck into a long relief role. But I like Gant too, Larry, and I didn't think of him at all for a starter. I thought, yeah, I know he wants to start, but he looked really good the other day. Pitched 2 innings, struck out 3, walked a couple, which walks are going to be common to start off the season. I was also glad to see Roel Ramirez make an appearance, the guy that gave up the 3 home runs. We had a little fun with him a couple episodes ago, but he came in and pitched a scoreless inning in that first spring training game. So it was nice to just kind of see him come out and kind of ease his way back in and get a little confidence. Is always kind of nice. Gallegos looked good. He came in, pitched an inning, struck out 2. Then we had, I knew it, one of Chris's top, Cabrera came in, gave up a damn run, walked 2 guys. I knew it was going to be one of Chris's picks. But all joking aside, it's expected. It's spring training, right? You can take these results with a grain of salt, but it's nice to see these guys get
but how do you gauge? I mean, how do you gauge that first game with, we know the situation behind the plate and all that unfolded with Flaherty and everything going on? Is that, do we contribute the bad to the umpiring? Do we, again, we tell the players overcome those obstacles. You got to adjust. These are young players.
Mm-hmm. But you have to. It's spring training, and I think regardless, it's all about reacting to situations and certain things that could easily happen in a real game situation, and that's where these players have to realize, it's pitch by pitch. I didn't get that one. I didn't get a couple of them, but I have to go out and make this next pitch. Here's what I'm going to do going ahead. I think the umpire does have an effect, but it's no different than one of your guys in the field making an error, right? On a pitch that you made, you have to turn around and focus on what you're going to do next, how you're going to approach the next hitter, the next pitch by pitch, batter by batter, out by out, inning by inning, and go from there. And I think these guys have to maintain poise. And I think that's one thing that Molina is good for in those type of situations. And Jack didn't have a lot of his command, but he was, we all know how that particular umpire has been in the past. So I don't focus too much on it, but still, he gave up 4 hits in an inning of work. So, but he wasn't getting pitches, but it's all about a game of adjustments and how but even though Flaherty hasn't been on the top of my, rah list, I think he's still a quality pitcher, and this doesn't have anything to do with him for the year, I would say. Now I want to switch a little focus here. We've got the outfield situation where we have Tyler O'Neill. Looks like he's going to, probably have that left field role, winning a Gold Glove. He got another hit today. A lot of this hinges on the way our outfield looks up is to Justin Williams, right? He's out of options, but I don't know if you guys noticed today, they said he may have another option just because of last year's season being shortened, and they can basically petition. They've got an arbitrator looking at it to see if last season counts. So I would say it's an easy decision for the Cardinals unless he plays his way onto this team. If he has an option available, I would say he is not going to make the cut. So barring his bat becoming the next Rosarena, what are your thoughts on the outfield, Chris? I would say if his option, if he doesn't get an additional option because of the shortened year, probably going to be him on the roster because they're not going to want to cut him or designate him for assignment. And I'd say if he does have that option, I'd say Lane Thomas or Austin Dean are going to be on your bench. How do you see the outfield coming out of this with or without that option?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think we've all said that, Tyler O'Neill and Harrison Bader and Dylan Carlson is basically going to be your starting three. As far as the bench outfield, it was going to be Lane Thomas, Austin Dean, and Justin Williams. But if Justin Williams has that extra option, I could see them giving him playing time in the minors. And, I know like today that Matt Caesar that we had signed, was in the lineup today. I don't see him making the squad. Really, Bader and O'Neill, they've got a lot to prove, but I think that kind of like last year with Mozeliak saying he wants to see what he has in those guys, I think he's got full confidence in giving them a go. And if they start to struggle, then you can pop in a Lane Thomas, who I think could fill that role quite well. I know everybody's high on Dylan Carlson, and I hope he comes out raking like he did at the end of last season. But you do have to at least have a precaution of these are young players that you're putting a lot of faith in that's unproven out there. I mean, defensively, I don't think there's any worry with the three of them. Offensively, if you're looking at Bader being a little above a 200 hitter, Tyler O'Neill, who was under 200 hitter last season, those are a lot of red flags that might be concerning, but I think that they're all going to come into their own, and they've got to get the playing time to be able to prove themselves, and this will be the year to do it.
Yeah, those are some great points, and I think like you said with Caesar, he's on a minor league deal, so that decision to not bring him north, as they would say, with the team makes sense. You're just basically it's coming down to a shuffle between Austin Dean, Justin Williams, and Lane Thomas of who you're gonna take on your bench. That's what it comes down to for me. So let me ask you, Larry, what are your thoughts? I mean, you're starting outfield pretty well set, I think, barring a hot bat. It's pretty well set. But who do you take on your bench as far as the two reserve outfielders? I know a lot of people are high on Williams, but if that option doesn't play, would you rather take him or Lane Thomas?
I don't think we've seen enough of Williams to really gauge his abilities from our standpoint. I mean, coming over from Tampa, you don't know. I think that, the Bader, O'Neill, and of course, Carlson, that's your set. I mean, that's your set lineup, I believe. But Dean is 27, and that makes him kind of the old man in the outfield, really. That's sad, considering where we were a couple years ago. But you're going to have to roll the dice on these kids. That's all there is to it. That's what we have. And we don't think ahead this season with everything, the matrix, the payrolls, the work stoppage that could happen. How often, how quick are GMs going to be to pull a trigger on a trade, say a June instead of waiting until July? So if maybe a couple of these outfielders aren't what we hope they would be, we could trade from, position of depth where we have, several third basemen, several outfielders, several pitchers. So there are options out there that we may be able to look for a team, that falls out quick. But I would say right now, if the options available for Williams, he's definitely the odd man out right now.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And the big thing for us, what we have to remember is fans is Lane Thomas, a couple of years ago, he came out hot, was doing well, and then he ended up, I think he had a broken wrist or something of that nature, but he played well, and that really kind of set him back, and he's just never had a chance. With Carlson coming up last year, he just didn't really have the chance to get back in a groove and become a regular player.
Yeah, one more thing, though, that we could talk about is that Tommy Edmond might get some time in the outfield if they play Carpenter at second base. So Tommy Edmond might be an option for a corner outfield position from time to time as well.
Yeah, honestly, even though they said they're not planning on it, I wouldn't rule him out of left field either. I know Schultz said it's probably not going to happen, but game time situations, especially if we don't have the DH and a double switch comes up, Carp's on the bench. You could see a lot of things. Managers usually get creative. That's the one thing I do like about the pitcher batting is you see, managing takes a little more effect. As far as double switching and who's going to go here and who you might pull out of the game. Those kind of things for pinch running, etc. So Carp did make a nice diving play today at second base. I did see that. I had it pulled up while I was doing some work. So that was nice to see. I think he's pretty comfortable at that position. And part of you have to feel a little bad for him because, every year we've asked him to pretty much do something different. And a lot of these guys, a lot of players, it's weird to hear a lot of these stories. A lot of these guys are creatures of habit. They like to know what position they're playing. Even back to Jim Edmonds, Jim Edmonds was saying in the game the other day, he loved it because, spring training way ahead of time, Tony would tell you, you're playing tomorrow, you're playing today, tomorrow, you're off Wednesday, Thursday, but you're going to play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Here's your road trip. Pick one. A lot of these guys are used to having everything planned out ahead of them. They don't like things they're used to routine, taking the certain same drive to the ballpark every day. Maybe if they have a good game, they drink the same beverage or have the same thing for lunch. So, a lot of these guys aren't comfortable with, doing that, but Carps had to do it every single year. And I think it does get in your head a little bit when you're moving around in the batting order in different positions, because you're not just focused on hitting and you're putting in extra work in the field. You're okay. I got to get my bat, but I need to focus. What if I play second? I haven't played there in 2 years basically. So I need to go take some reps at second base. I need to get back into being a second baseman mindset, prepare myself mentally for that. There's a lot that goes into it that we as fans just think, oh, he's playing second base. He's a major leaguer, like beer league softball. Oh, you're going to play right field today. You're going to play third base. It's not the same. It's not the same in beer league softball, no matter what people tell you. It's not the same in the major leagues by any stretch of the imagination. So
even the batting order, when you hit in a different spot in the lineup, it calls for different characteristics and, different advantages come or go. Who's in front of you? Who's behind you?
Yeah, different approach.
Exactly. I mean, how many times do we tell them not to steal in front of Albert Pujols? Don't open first base. We don't care if there's nobody at second. Don't take the bag.
Yeah, don't give yourself an out.
Exactly.
Get thrown out. Let him play and see what happens.
So
it's going to be interesting because I know they're going to have a 26-man roster. They said they're going to take 5 bench players. Those 5 bench players are going to go quick. You got to figure 2 outfielders, a catcher, and then you got 2 infielders basically. The bullpen's going to be pretty well set. You're going to have that taxi squad, but those guys aren't going to be in games a lot. And then also with today, they announced a delay to the minor league season by at least a month. So you're going to have guys that are going to have the extended spring training after, but they're not going to be seeing. I'm sure they're going to be playing simulated, but it's not the same. They're not going to be seeing as game time action. So those people that get sent down, I feel like are going to be even a little step further behind. So that may make a decision too, like Schilt and Mo and Gersh may get together and say, okay, well, we were going to send, say, Kinsler to Memphis, but they're not playing for a month. So they're going to have extended camp, but they may say, well, we're going to take him with the team because there's no reason for us to send him somewhere where he's not playing at all. At least we've got him available. So that may factor into some of these decisions as well on who they're taking where, because the minor leagues aren't going to be starting playing games or be a month behind. They're going to play through September.
Well, again, that goes back to your pitching too. I mean, if you stretch out these kids, like a Libator, and he's actually pitching well, and you've got him stretched out in spring training, now you're telling him to, basically shut it down and go play catch for a month.
Yeah. I mean, Chris, what do you think? I mean, I would say Carp has a pretty good chance of being a pinch hitter from the left side of the plate, but they're really high on John Nogowitzki, and he's probably going to make the team. Being a right-handed bat, he has a good eye. And I read probably too much into this, but I always look at the numbers they give these guys, and they've already gave him number 34. So they moved his number up as far as terms of on the team. And I usually think that's kind of an idea of how they gauge people. He's not number 87 anymore, or number 69 or 68 or whatever. He's number 34, which is lower. So I would say he's got a pretty good chance of making the team as one of those guys. And then you've got to look at your middle infield, where they're going to have Sosa or even this new kid, this Max Moroff that came up. He played today, got another hit. He looked pretty good, and I never really had heard of him a whole lot until now. So, what are your thoughts? How do you see Carp? I mean, do you see him being? He hasn't basically relinquished his spot yet. He's not considering himself a bench player as of this point. He's still feeling like he's going to play every day, and he's obviously not going to be playing it first or third, spell a game or two, or an injury. You're not going to see him playing. DH is still off the table. I mean, do you see him second base, or is he going to be your first pinch hitter?
I mean, I've said I think it's going to be hard to justify having that kind of a contract sitting on the bench. But that aside, he's under contract. There's nothing you can do about that at this point. I know in a recent interview that they had on today after the game, he was kind of talking about he won't get much time between first and third on spelling those guys a day off, and he realizes that, and just going to work hard at second base. And didn't sound at all like a guy that was coming in with the mentality of being a bench player. He expects to play every day, and I know the team has kind of said that Tommy Edmond was going to be the starting second baseman, or that's how John Mozeliak envisioned it going. I don't know that a John Nagowski carrying him makes a ton of sense, just on the fact of you're not going to see much defensive playing time with him spelling first base. And if that does happen, I mean, that would just be a smooth transition for Carpenter to take a spot like that. But I agree with you that, giving a guy a number like that, and, his numbers, they've been high on him. I could see him making the team. It just puts Carpenter in a really weird position, because we have asked him to do a lot of different things. He's done everything the team has asked of him, but he's not coming in like he's ready to take on a bench role. He just keeps saying that he'll do whatever it is that the team asks of him. And I think that's basically what he's going to be, is he'll platoon some at second base. He'll be that option off the bench if need be. And you might see him on the corners on rare occasions, barring injury.
And I think it wouldn't be unheard of to see either him or Edmond in left or right, depending on how double switching goes. Probably more so Edmond, and I would rather see Edmond at third base. So maybe a situation where Arenado gets that rare day off, and Edmond may play third and Carp may play second. I think would be a more likely solution, with Carp being a little slower, a little older. And same thing to you, Larry. Carp has a good positive attitude, which you'd like to see, but he's not giving up his mindset of being a starter, which is something you want to see. It's not necessarily him saying, no, I'm going to start. He's preparing himself mentally, just how we talked about, going over the whole mental situation, right? In his mind, he's thinking, I'm going to be starting. I need to prepare myself for that. And I'm playing every day, and I'm going to make, that's my approach until I'm told I'm not playing every day. So I don't think it's necessarily him being, conceited or being uncooperative, because he's been more so actually the other direction. What do you think, and where do you see Carp? You think he's going to be your pinch hitter? I mean, they like John Nagowski, but Nagowski's probably not going to make this team if Carp is on the bench. You can't have two pinch hitters, and Nagowski can only play really first, maybe left. But how many with Goldschmidt? Those are just two guys you're going to have sitting there waiting for hopefully a pinch hitter opportunity. Hopefully the DH comes into play, but if not, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, like we talked about before, if you do it right, and Schultz pretty good about it, is you could move these guys around, and Carp could realistically play 3 or 4 games a week, just at different positions. And the fact that he came in, he said, I'm not ready to give it up. I'm not ready to quit. Shows that he still has that passion. And that's what you ask for from all players. I think it's going to come down to his bat, unfortunately, for Carp. I still think he's, standing trying to draw the walks. We've seen it already in spring training. It's swing the damn bat. He's got to swing it now. Who cares if you strike out in spring training? Nobody cares. But you're standing with the bat on the shoulder and you strike out, everybody's going to pay attention. We need to see the bat speed. I think that's what's going to come down to. The only good thing I can see about Nogowinski is that he's a right-handed power bat versus a left-handed power bat from Carp. So that'd be the only advantages. But with the outfield we have plenty of bats from the right side. So like I said, I don't see him making the team unless Carp just fails. But again, it's hard to eat that salary and not play Carp. So he's going to have to play.
Yeah, you think he's going to try to find a spot. I think they're still holding on for hope, and maybe this DH thing will work itself out before the season starts. And it could. We have roughly a month. I know that the teams do want it, even though they didn't agree to it. I know they want it. I know MLB wants expanded playoffs, but they can throw that in at basically anytime. The DH is coming regardless, so they might as well make the concession. That would solve a lot of problems. I know we're not playing any American League teams. We do play the White Sox, but that doesn't even come till looks like May.
Yeah, I haven't seen schedules, so
late May we play the White Sox. It's our first road American League team, so that's a little ways away. But I think you can't hold that spot for either. But if the DH comes into play, it saves us a lot. You've got carp against right-handed pitchers, and you could actually play Nogowisky against a lefty pitcher, and that would kind of solve its own problem. Because even though, in a typical season, if you had a Carp or Edmond at third base, you could, but you got to figure Arenado and Goldschmidt are probably only not going to play. I would say max they're going to be able to line up 5 games this year. I mean, 5 to 8 for Goldie, 5 for Arenado. Arenado's younger. I don't see either one of those guys sitting much. I would like to see DeYoung probably play 145 of 162, somewhere around there. But most of those guys aren't going to be sitting down. If Carlson comes out and rakes and he's a star on this team, he's not going to be sitting much either. So we might have a pretty set lineup. I would like to see Yachty catch 130 games. He doesn't need to play 162, of course. So it'll be interesting to see how things, shake out. But like you said, Hicks came out and he's throwing and he's looked well. So far, we're 2 spring training games in and we haven't lost a game yet. So that's what's important. We haven't won either, but we haven't lost. So that's the key. That's the key part.
I'll tell you the one kid that really impressed me in the Monday game, the Parsons kid. I had never really heard of the kid, and he came out in the one inning, and I mean, he pretty much looked dominant already. There's always that one surprise kid you see.
Yeah, and Chris's favorite player made his appearance today as a fifth runner. Who am I talking? Chris, number 91.
Lars
Nootbaar. His favorite.
He's been dying to say it for 4 years.
Yeah. Hungry? Why wait? Grab a Nootbaar.
So, just looking through the roster, I mean, it was kind of Delvin Perez, the shortstop we drafted. Kid seems like he's been around forever. He's like 22 years old. And, I mean, you start looking at these ages on these kids and, we've heard about them forever. And you think, man, these kids should be gone. I mean, because he's been around for, 4 seasons? And he's only 22, but I guess, right out of high school drafted. So that's the thing that I always look at for spring training. I'm looking more at those kids than I am the major leaguers we already know about. They have jobs. I mean, like we talk about all the time, we're sitting here talking about Carp, what's he going to do, what's going to happen there. We know. I mean, realistically, he's going to play because he's already getting paid to play. Right. Unless Johnny Peralta type thing happens and they just decide, hey, this isn't working out, but he'll still get, a month into like Johnny Peralta did before they're going to cut that tie. So how many of these kids you look at and you're saying, our future is actually pretty damn bright. I don't care what anybody says as far as this team right now. We have a lot of youngsters that have a lot of talent.
We do have a lot of youngsters with a lot of talent. That's trying to find a spot for them to play. So, Chris, you're basically only got one extra bullpen guy you can take. Let's just say the roster turns out with Martinez being our 5th starter. I'll just jot it down here in the middle of chat and just kind of see where we were at, because today they said they were going to take 5 bench players for the offensive/defensive side. So that means it's going to leave them with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bullpen arms. Hicks is going to take one of those. Miller's taking one of those. Webb is taking that. Webb's going to be on the team for sure. You got to figure Helsley, Gant. You got to think Reyes is going to be on that list.
Hernandez.
He may not be. That leaves you with one spot, and that one spot would go to who am I? Didn't even put
Gallegos.
I didn't put Gallegos down.
Yep. That's your 7.
So who's that? That's leaving guys off the list like Cabrera, like Oviedo, Woodford. That's not even getting into some of our other prospects, but I know Ramirez. That's leaving a lot of guys. Junior Fernandez, it's leaving a lot of guys off of our list.
Rondon, Whitley.
Yeah, Cody Whitley's another one that's leaving a lot of guys off our list. How do you see the bullpen shaking out, Chris? I mean, it's that's why I wanted to put pen to paper because I knew we were going to toss it around, but that pretty much caps our number. That's 20. That's our 26-man roster.
That might be a reason why the Cardinals don't go out and get an Odorizzi, is just because you've got this many young arms that you're already log jammed at. I mean, the recently acquired Johan Cazeta is another pitcher that that's somebody that's picked up. I know that when we talk about Liberatore and Zach Thompson, they're really not on the cusp as far as some of these others as getting the first nod. But looking just down the line of arms and arms and arms, we've got a ton of them that I think could fill the spot in-house. The Cardinals may just have to go that route because you just don't want to have all these guys, especially with minor league spring training the way that it is, just playing toss, or simulating games. It really puts us in a pickle. So I don't know. I mean, the ones you named off are the ones that are going to have a spot. I mean, you got Gallegos and Webb, and you went down the list. Those are guys that are going to get, bullpen spots over the rest of these young guys.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Hicks, Miller. Webb is not going to be sent down. Helsley's not going to be sent down. John Gant, if he's not a starter, he's in the bullpen. Alex Reyes, you got to figure he's making the team, and I think he might be out of options. And you got Gallegos, who's going to make this team, and that's figuring Carlos Martinez is our starter. Nicholas is healthy, of course. If something happens there, maybe, and it's a situation too to where, he's not hurt, but they're rushing him, so he's not on the opening day roster, and that opens up a spot for one of these guys. Or sometimes, injuries have been fabricated in the past. They say this happened, but that would leave guys like Larry Cabrera off the list. Seth Elledge, who's another good one that I forgot about. Just going down the list. Let's see. You've got
Ponce de Leon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't even have Ponce on the list. Holy cow. Yeah, Ponce de Leon, Oviedo, Quezada, Angel Rondon, who's on the list. That for Cody Whitley, you already said him, and Jake Woodford. Those are all guys in the 40-man that would be left off this list.
So if you just look at those numbers right now, what team has an extra outfielder sitting there that needs pitching? That's because that's the thing. That's what happens in spring training. You start looking at those numbers. Because even look at the 40-man roster, we only have 38 on the roster out of the 40 men. And then you've got Hudson, he'll move to the 60 or the 60-day. So that only puts us at 37 on the 40-man roster. So between the shuttle and the satellite, they're going to call it whatever. I mean, those guys could see a lot of action, but they're still going to be bouncing back and forth. It's going to be no baseball for a month in the minors. Mm-hmm. That's going to be complicated to fill roster spots and keep everybody healthy.
I would say a lot of it's going to depend too. This may, barring an injury, obviously, if an injury comes up, I'm going to say, let's say Nicholas doesn't start the season. Okay, we're going to say he's not because he hasn't even started pitching yet, right? So I'm going to say Ponce is going to take his spot. You got to figure Ponce is going to have a spot. So that's still leaving a lot of guys out to be in other teams' bullpen. Like for instance, Gomber. I don't want to go back and rehash the trade, but Gomber made a super impressive start with the Rockies the other day, and they were super impressed. They ran him out there first. That's why we traded him. And another team he's in his rotation. We have Hicks, Miller, Gallegos, Helsley. Any of those guys can be closing for another team that he was traded to. You've got guys like Ponce, Gant, Reyes, who could be starting in a starting rotation for other teams. Even Ponce, if he was traded to other teams, he'd be starting for over half of the major league teams. I have no doubt. But back into the rotation guy. We're just so loaded, and I don't think a lot of our people in the nation get how heavy we are with these arms, which is good. A couple injuries, 2-3 injuries come up. You have a taxi squad doubleheader. Then you add the 27th man on those days, and you got to figure a couple of those pitchers are going to be on that squad, probably Ramirez or Rondon, somebody like that. But they're going to want some of these guys to get work. You're not going to want Genesis Cabrera to be on your taxi squad and not pitch. I mean, it's weird finding a spot for some of these guys, Chris, but you also got to figure it gives us a lot of depth. I don't even know if we traded, we would want to trade, and I'm gonna get creative here, and I'm gonna get flexible. I'm gonna say, if you don't think you can sign Jack Flaherty to a major league extension, you trade him now, unless you're doing what maybe you're doing well in the first place. You're not going to, but I think it's something you honestly have to start looking at. I mean, where do you get creative? And I know Larry was saying trade for an outfielder, but then you take O'Neill out of the lineup. He pretty much still hasn't really gotten a full chance. He won a Gold Glove in limited opportunity. For some reason, the team hung up on Bader. They pretty much said he was the starting center fielder before spring training began, which blew my mind. I mean, where do you go from here with this team, us being stacked and us not giving up prospects? And at some point in time, you have to the freshening of crap or get off the pot. We did it with Carson Kelly. It's happening now with Kinsner. Where do you see a move coming, or do you think they're playing the wait and see game, or what? What are your thoughts on the roster, Chris?
I think with Flaherty, I mean, knowing that he's not really going to reach free agency for a couple seasons, now he'll have another couple of years to go through the arbitration hearing like he did this past off season. But I don't think
trade him. Sorry,
right.
But if you do trade him, then you get what in return? More prospects that you don't have any room for?
No, that's the tricky part. I mean, for years the Cardinals have been, known for stockpiling pitching, and we always say, everybody says you can't have enough pitching. Well, right now I think the Cardinals have more than enough pitching. The problem is when you do have the outfield that we have right now, where you want to give these guys a shot to see what you have, because O'Neill hasn't been given a full opportunity yet. Bader, while he has, I know they're still kind of hanging on to hope for what he is, and he is a great defensive outfielder. But, if you dangle Flaherty out there for an outfielder, what kind of outfielder are you looking for? And, is it going to be something that I don't think the Cardinals will do that immediately? I don't think that would even happen this season unless if Flaherty starts struggling, then you don't want to sell low on him. If he's struggling, the team's not going to be like, okay, we're going to give you a stud outfielder for Flaherty because he has potential to be something. But do you sell high on him and try to move him now and then get an outfielder that, again, blocks an O'Neill or, a Carlson or somebody that's the whole reason why they've kind of moved on from Fowler and ate his contract, was to give these guys an everyday opportunity to prove themselves as major league ball players.
Sure, I think I agree with you. Where there too, you hang on to Flaherty, see what happens this year, and if he is pitching very well this year, like extremely well, and the team is doing extremely bad, then you might visit that at the halfway point. If the Cardinals are just not playing well, because anything can happen in this game, and he is just on fire. I mean, he says he hasn't thought about free agency, but he has. If he says he hasn't, he's lying to everybody. Those guys have all thought about it. We thought about it. He's trying to tell me he goes over all these numbers about arbitration and agreeing to a new contract every year. He's thought about free agency and that free agency money. I'm not saying he shouldn't. I'm saying I would, and everybody else has, and he has too. So, I mean, you have to think, if you've got the Jack Flaherty type pitcher, because he is a talented young guy, and he's not going to sign with you, why not trade him and then go out and try to sign him, which you were going to try to do anyways, after you get a return for him? I think you're almost stupid if you don't. I think the fans have drastically underestimated our front office in the past, but they've done an amazing job. We've been competitive every year. We always have a farm system that's ranked fairly high. We do a great job drafting these guys, but you trade someone like a Flaherty, you go out and get guys like Jordan Walker, who's a third baseman in our system, who's a young 18-year-old kid. I mean, those are the kind of guys you want to go out and get that are not probably close, but have that huge upside. Because, I mean, we're stacked high now. We're talking about trying to find a spot for Carpenter, who, even though he's had a couple of rough years, would be starting on other teams. We're trying to find a spot for Kinsner, who would be a starting catcher in the major leagues if he was on several other teams. So that's why, things have confused. We've hung on to some guys, but before we've traded away, and a lot of those guys didn't turn out to be much, with the exception of Rosarena and Voight, but it's still early on those guys. they can go out in no time. We've traded top prospects like Brett Wallace and Kiko Calero and Dan Herron, who were supposed to go on and be. Dan Herron was supposed to be the next, big pitcher, and he was good for a few years, but then he fizzled out when he got to Arizona. That's what pitchers do; they come here to die. So I mean, we've got a lot of guys on the cusp, and barring injury, we're not going to have a chance for a lot of these guys to play. And you're going to want to keep guys like Ponce and Cabrera kind of stretched out for potential starting in case there is an injury. Somebody like Gant as well, but Gant is hurt by his flexibility. I think he could be starting, but they like having the option. Okay, he can bounce start. He's a doubleheader guy. He can come in and give us 3 innings in the second game. That kind of stuff. But we have a lot of great pitchers, and I think my dark horse pitcher that I picked earlier this year was Oviedo. That kid's got a ton of talent. I think you give him a couple years, he's going to be a number 3 starter. And our fans are like, "Oh, we got to get Odorizzi, and I don't disagree with getting him. But my thing with everybody has been is, okay, who's off the list? Because we've already talked about we don't have room for Ponce or someone of that nature. If we go with the roster as is now, so you go Odorizzi, so who else is off? So you're going to say Ponce shouldn't be in the big leagues, and neither should, I don't know, Reyes. How long are you going to make Reyes wait? They're not going to send Reyes back down. I mean, you would almost have to send Helsley or Webb down or find a spot for them. They're not going to do that because they want 2 lefties, so Webb's on the team with Miller. And Helsley's your odd man out, and he's a fantastic pitcher. We're talking about him closing or starting. We just have so much depth. That's why I was trying to, I try to want to talk about this and get it over to the fans in the group that are complaining about going out and signing Odorizzi. We don't have. Where are you going to put the guy?
Yeah.
Who are we to say that Odorizzi would be any better than what we have, Larry?
Right now, we forget one thing. We haven't made our mandatory spring training trades yet with the Mariners, the Toronto Blue Jays, or the Florida Marlins. We have that every spring. We have to make that trade to one of those 3 teams. So again, I mean, we always look at the upper echelon. We always look at the older players in our system, but if you traded, let's say Ponce is the odd guy out, maybe, we've got too many guys of that caliber. You make a trade to, say, like Seattle for some 19-year-old kid or a 20-year-old kid that we don't see for the next, 5 or 6 years. But that's the reason our funnel is full now, is because of John Mozeliak has always done that. Remember the kid we got for Matt Adams from Atlanta? Now my mind's completely Jan, whatever his name was.
Yepes.
Yepes, that's it. I mean, those kids like that. He had a power surge in minor leagues, but whether or not it ever carries on to the majors, we'll never know. But so you're always stockpiling for that next kid. But the problem is how fair is it to a Ponce de Leon for him to continually be sent down, or him always being the next man up if they need him? So you have to gauge their worth, but addressing what you said, Jared, about a possible trade of Flaherty, you don't announce that he's the opening day starter then trading. That just isn't going to happen unless you're just really trying to escalate his value. But
no, I didn't mean like now. I meant like
I know what you meant. I know.
I just thought he's the kind of kid that you could sell high on at some point in time if he's not going to resign, which I don't think he is. Pull a Pirates or Brewers move or somebody, and trade him while you get some value. He's going to test the market. And if you think you are going to have a legit chance to re-sign him, wait till trade him away to whoever the hell. And then when he's a free agent, and then when you trade him, you say, look, we want it. We hope you get money. We want you to test free agency market. We're going to make you an offer. We're going to come after you hard. And if they really want him and he really wants to play in St. Louis, they can figure it out then. But until then, I was just thinking, do what everybody else does, man. We got depth. If we're shitty this year and we're looking rough at halfway through the year, trade him now. If not, like Chris said, wait till next year. But I agree.
We know the reality.
We know
the reality. If he hits free agency, you're competing against teams like the Angels, the Yankees, the Red Sox. They'll be on the mend a couple of years from now or a year from now. They'll be spending money again like they always have. The Cubs will be looking to spend money. I mean, that'd be worst case scenario for me. We let him go in free agency and he ends up across the state and ends up, pitching against us. That's the biggest fear. I mean, we all take it for granted he's a California kid he's going to go west, young man, look for the gold. But, I mean, I don't see the Dodgers looking to add another big salary in their rotation unless something really bad goes wrong for them. So you're looking at the Padres, who, I mean, they look stacked as far as their pitching goes, their depth. I mean, they've got what's his name coming off of the DL even next year. So that's the thing. You never know.
Yeah, Lament.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. But I mean, I see your point. I see Chris's point. I see some of the fans. I mean, I realize we try not to get into politics and all. We understand the politics behind the Flaherty issue with fans. We see that. Whether it's right or wrong, we agree, disagree, whatever. It comes down to the kid's right arm. What talent does this kid have? Where do we foresee his net worth to the Cardinals? Is he an ace? Is he a 3? I mean, if we trade him tomorrow, who becomes the ace of the staff? Kim? I mean,
at this point, probably Wainwright.
And that's the scary part right there. I mean, we just don't have. We have depth. We have arms to put in, but no, there's no dominant pitching arm that we can say this is the kid until maybe like Lipitar or the other kid that you're high on.
Like Thompson and Lipitar.
Thompson, thanks you. Yeah, my mind is blank today. Sorry.
3 years from now, our rotation could be Lipitar, Thompson, Oviedo. I mean,
all homegrown. Yeah. That's the thing. We're not the Yankees and the Dodgers going out and paying or trading for. We're not trading top prospects like the Padres. What did their draft? I mean, their minor league drop in stock from first overall to 8th, 9th. So, and they trade away half their future.
Well, don't forget that we've got Dakota Hudson that will be back from injury next season.
Right.
Yeah. And he would probably be your 2 or 3 guy. KK is a free agent. He's probably not going to be back after this year, be my guess, just because you don't have a spot for him. And Lipitar will be right behind him as far as left-handed, or even Zach Thompson might even be by that time comes along too. But and KK's pitched well. Who knows if he will this year? But last year he was great. He was our second best starter, right with him and Wayno were our 2 best guys last year. But you do got Hudson back. But I agree with you, Larry. Something I think if the Cardinals are going to make a move from depth, even if it's just to get some international pool draft signing money, I think Ponce might be your guy. Ponce might be the odd man out of this, to where because he's the kind of guy that's got a track record in the big leagues. They can trade him to a team and he could slot easily into their rotation. And the Flaherty thing would be wait and see. And we are kind of going to. I like your second point that you made about Flaherty. You trade him, who's our ace? We got a lot of guys, but if you think about it, Carlos Martinez was supposed to be an ace, right? Probably still could be. Probably could be a number 2 guy on most teams if he's got his head right. Alex Reyes still has all the potential. He's got the pitches. This guy could be a superstar. He could go on to another team and be a 2 or 3 guy easy. So we have a lot of guys that it's kind of another one of those deals where we got to make a move to get up the pot. And I think a guy like Ponce, even though he's a good player, just like Gomber, and they were very similar. One was right-handed, one was left, but I viewed them personally very similar styles as to where we don't have a spot for them. They're clogging up the wheel for other guys like Cabrera and Oviedo and those guys, but you're not going to leave them off the team because they're good pitchers. So, I mean, you just think about it, Chris. There's a lot of stuff going on, and you figure they got to clear up the logjam somehow. I mean, KK will be gone next year for agency. Wayno has a good year and wants to come back. He's going to. Flaherty's got 2 years left. I mean, none of these guys are going to be going anywhere anytime soon. A couple of the big name guys might be, but we got a lot of young talent that we got to figure out what to do with.
Yeah, it does put the Cardinals in a spot. And again, I know we say it constantly that you can never have enough pitching. I think this doesn't really come back to bite the Cardinals, but it bodes well for them to have this many options because worst case scenario, guys get hurt, or right now there is a log jam. You've got so many that you can pick and choose from that can be on the taxi squad, and you have guys like a Woodford or a Whitley that you could even dangle for trade pieces if you want to bring in somebody before the trade deadline and get this team over the hump. But that's what we're needing is some offense.
I just find it interesting. Everyone always says, "Oh, go get Odorizzi," but then we've got 7 or 8 guys that could be in our starting rotation. We got 3 to 4 guys that could be a closer for any number of teams. So I mean, it's a good problem to have, but it's it makes me a little sad for some of these guys because you got to figure out guys like Cabrera and Oviedo, who pitched well last year, even started a couple of games. they're going to be odd men out, and they really haven't done anything to deserve it. Their time is now. They should be on a big league roster somewhere. So it's just kind of like Carlson, Gregerson, and down. We've got Kinsler's in the same way, and you got Herrera backing him up. And at some point in time, if Yachty is going to stay and play, great. I'm all for keeping Yachty as long as he's a productive teammate. But Kinsler is just eating value, and Ponce, they're just eating away years and time and value to the team. Despite those are assets that aren't being used basically. So we didn't think we were going to talk about the minor leagues much, but I got a bit on a tyrant, but it was good feedback. It was a good talk. So good stuff, guys.
I don't know if you guys seen this or not. I know this kind of wasn't something we really talked about, but last year we made the trade for the Drew Robinson kid, or the year before last. You remember him, the kid from the Rangers? Did you guys see in the paperwork he attempted suicide in February? There was a really good article about his attempted suicide. Now he's trying to make a comeback. He actually lost his eye. It's pretty serious. In our group, a lot of times we get into these conversations about fans and how they don't like players, certain players that we've just recently traded away. These guys do take it to heart, believe it or not, being booed in the stands and stuff. They hear it. And this kid's coming out and he's talking about it. And good for him. I'm glad he's talking about it. I'm glad he's okay. But we always just assume these guys are robots. They do have feelings. They do come to play. They're no different than you or I. And I just thought that was kind of with him, the story was, I was unaware of it. He's in the Giants system now. He signed as a free agent last year with the Giants after we let him walk. He basically shot himself in like 16 hours, laid unattended. So if you look it up, find the article. It's a really good article. It discusses the whole thing about suicide. And with the rise of suicide and everything going on, I thought it was kind of a good subject kind of to touch on. Because we are talking about these kids, and we talk about just shuffling them to other teams, because that's baseball's business. But at the same time, these are people that we're discussing as well. So I always try to be respectful, I guess, in the group of individual players and each other. So sorry, I kind of get off my soapbox there, but
no, it was a good interview. I read that article, and he's got a good story, and it goes back to not just young players, but even Fowler when he was dealing with his depression. A lot of the ball players, they are people. All of them are people, and for our group members sometimes to forget that, and they think they're just machines, that they're making this kind of money, they should go out and perform, and perform at a high level. Well, they're going to have off days just like we have off days, at our jobs. They're going to struggle with things in their personal life that carry over onto the field. And, it's one thing to judge, as a fan, judge a player's performance on the field of, man, this guy is sucking today or something. But some of these fans do take it to the next level of, this player is garbage. This player is trash. And I think that it's such a low blow, and our fan base, I would like to think, is better than that. But each fan base has these type of fans that go personal. They go cutthroat with it. And for younger players, they might have a harder time to get through that than older players. But even somebody like a Fowler that you struggle, they're out there trying their best. They're not going up there trying to suck. Same with Brett Cecil. He was the walking joke with Cardinal fans a couple years ago. I know that guy went out there and tried his best. Now, that doesn't mean I can't say, hey, he's pitching horribly. But at the same time, I'm not going to go call this guy garbage. I know the struggle that he's out there working his tail off. Stuff behind the scenes that nobody sees. So us as fans, I do think that we should take a better approach at handling how we judge and criticize and critique ball players, for sure.
Thank you, gentlemen. Well said. Brett Cecil was awful.
He was.
He battled a lot of injuries too. That he kept trying.
I just couldn't help it. Yeah, poor guys making the major league minimum. I feel sorry for him.
Jack's underpaid.
Playing baseball every day. These guys got it rough. Listen, everyone, take it easy on these guys. They're traveling, making good money, playing baseball. Take it easy on them, for God's sake. What are you guys doing for your work? Probably nothing as hard as theirs.
Have you stayed in a hotel for years on end and see how it goes? It sucks. I traveled for 5 years
for work. I used to do
I
it
did
for work
too.
too, and I loved it.
Oh, I hated it.
I love traveling, being on the road. So, but it's part of the job. I mean, you knew when you got hired,
Right.
just like they did. It's a job. Get the job done, earn your paycheck, and go home. If you don't want to get transferred to another team, you can always quit.
There's
Go
that.
to work, do a regular job, which you don't want to do.
McDonald's pays $15 an hour now.
See, there you go. Robinson. The Giants don't work out, then you can have it your way at McDonald's. Moving on to the players that could handle the stress and the rigors of the game in their stressful lives of playing baseball and staying to their horrible lives on the road and living in hotels is the Hall of Fame. Chris, who do we have coming up for a potential Hall of Fame ceremony this year?
I know the Cardinals announced on Monday that there will be Steve Carlton, Keith Hernandez, Matt Morris, Edgar Renteria, and Lee Smith as the class of 2021. The only caveat this season is only one of those, the top vote getter, will be selected to join the 2020 class of Tommy Hurd, John Scooter, and Bill White. Voting is available now at cardinals.com/HOF. I know in years past, you'll get like at least two of the top vote getters will get in. This season, they're just going to do one. But yeah, that's your list of nominees. Will be Carlton, Hernandez, Morris, Rennery, and Smith. Pretty good class. I've got some notes written down about each of them, but pretty solid class, really. And it'd be tough to pick one out of that bunch.
Who gets your vote, Chris? You get one vote. You can't do like 25 times like they say you can.
Right. Looking over, I know a lot of the fans were big Steve Carlton fans, and he had quite a career for the Cardinals. Unfortunately, didn't finish his career here. I know a lot of people aren't popular with this, but I would go with Keith Hernandez. The guy being a Gold Glover 6 straight years for the Cardinals and really held down first base and was a great bat, had a 299 average for the Cardinals over his time here. I know most fans of today kind of link him in with the Mets, being a Mets broadcaster and having his time there. But anybody that remembers his 10-year career in St. Louis, it's already a shame that he's not in my opinion.
Yeah, I didn't realize he had won that many consecutive Gold Gloves until I got to reading about it as well. I mean, I knew he had a couple. I didn't know it was 6, and didn't know they were consecutive. And I didn't know he was. I didn't know he played that well. I remember he was a big contributor to the 1982 World Series team, but I didn't know he was that big of a player. Larry, if you get one vote, who are you going for?
I would go with Carlton. I mean, Carlton was traded without him really forcing the trade. It was basically came down to like $3,000 difference. I'm a Carlton fan, always have been. I was there. I mean, I lived through the Hernandez time. Since I'm a little older than you fellas. It was heartbreaking to find out what had happened with him, and he fell out of favor with Whitey, and they shipped him off to the Mets, and it became a sore spot with a lot of Cardinals fans. We hated the pond scum of the Mets, and to me, I mean, I will tell you truthfully, I would think Hernandez is the one that people will vote for just because people know who he is. The people that get on the internet and vote, they're younger. They're going to go with Hernandez, and rightfully so. I mean, he is a Hall of Famer. He was a hell of a ball player. I would say, honestly, defensively, he's probably the best first baseman I've ever seen play as a Cardinal. And that's saying a lot. Albert Pujols and stuff, but with the glove, there was nobody better than him with a glove.
Yeah, there was a lot of guys that were better than I remember. I mean, Matt Morris, his numbers, I mean, his complete games don't, but a lot of his pitching numbers kind of mirror Carlton, his point in time when he was pitching for the Cardinals, and I didn't even realize Matt Morris was that good for us. 206 games, started 101, had 18 complete games, 8 shutouts. I don't remember him being that good. So I mean, and Carlton only won 77 games, in almost the same time span, just another year or so. But Edgar Renteria won 2 Gold Gloves, had 3 Silver Sluggers when he played for us. Forget about the Silver Sluggers. I knew he had a Gold Glove or 2 in there. Didn't was the last played for us on that 04 team. He lost to the Red Sox and then went to the Red Sox. And my pick was Lee Smith. And he was only with the Cardinals for 4 years, saved 160 games. Appeared in 245 games. He was pretty well lights out. 43 saves in 3 or 4 seasons during his Cardinals career, and I'm going for his Cardinals time. And he was here for the shortest period. An All-Star 3 times, top 4 of Cy Young voting twice. And then he had the saves record until Isringhausen broke it in 2007. So people forget how Lee Smith was. I think it was because he was here for such a short period of time, and it was kind of in a quiet time for the Cardinals, 90 to 93, to where we weren't winning any World Series by any means. But good choices. It's kind of a shame that only one of them can be voted in. Normally they do more, but every one of these could be a Hall of Famer for the St. Louis Cardinals organization. So good luck to them. Don't forget to go vote to make your All-Star selection now. So good luck to those guys.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one thing too, looking at Carlton's numbers, 66 complete games and 16 shutouts. 14 game winner as a starter for the '67 World Championship team. I know it was before my era, but just looking at those numbers, it's hard to not want to vote for a guy like that. Hernandez was, right in the beginning of my fandom, but just seeing him for a decade being a Cardinal, and that's not to negate, somebody like Lee Smith that only played 4 seasons. But, you look at a guy that 6 straight years of Gold Glove for a team, I'll give him a nod over a 4-year career, Cardinal career with Lee Smith. But, yeah, all good options. And Matt Morris, and Edgar Renteria were both gamers that I think were also fan favorites. It's just not just about the numbers.
I don't know about when your time frame of you guys becoming Cardinals fans and the age difference, I guess. Matty was
the year I was born.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, but do you remember it? Oh, Matty was he was the Wayno of his time. I mean, that was a fun time. The Bennis's, Matty, Mo, those guys were definitely there. It was a shame Morris got hurt. He started having the injuries, the small injuries, and they just got bigger and bigger. But he was one of those guys who was fun to watch. He took the mound. You knew the presence was there. But even like Lee Smith, when you seen him pitch for the Cubs, and then you just know this guy, he's so big. He's just huge. And when he came to the Cardinals, it was like you kind of didn't like the Cubs side of him, but then he was such a competitor. I would have never wanted to get that batter's box against him. I'd rather face Hicks and let him hit me with 104 than this guy hit me and I get mad and kill me. But it was that time in that era for Lee Smith. The closer role had developed a little bit more from Suter onto him. When the Cardinals really embraced that closer mentality that they were going to have that designated closer. In baseball, of course, everybody shifted that direction. But I think the Cardinals were kind of ahead of that game a little bit as far as the designated closers.
They've had some good ones with Eckersley, Suter.
Smith, like you said, Lee Smith, his record was held, then it got broke, and then his record is now broken by Rosie. So, and then, even like, he came in from nowhere, and he had a fine career as a closer for the Cardinals for a year. And now we've got Hicks. We've always had that closer's role.
What about the Chief, Edward Mojica?
Who? Steve Klein was my guy, man. Steve Klein. Dirty Cap Klein.
He could turn that role and became a closer and did a good job and didn't really do much of anything before or after.
Franklin?
Franklin. I was never a huge Franklin fan, but
he was a starter. He was a starter. Then Duncan them said, "Hey, let's make him a closer."
Yeah. Steve Klein. Him and Tony were good friends.
Yeah. I always liked Steve Klein's attitude. The hat. He refused to wash the hat or change the hat. I think it was just ugly. It was horrible.
Yeah. It was him, and then after him we had Julian Tavares. Is that right?
Tavares, and then we had
He didn't watch.
Brantley. We had Brantley.
He wasn't a closer, but Tavares never watched his hat. Remember he had a hat.
Yeah.
Jason Mott.
I forgot about Jason. How can we forget about Jason Mott? But I did forget about him. I mean,
he gave me a bobblehead. Oh.
That's wrong, Jason Mott.
I know.
Chris looks like him, and this guy, and the Peoria Chiefs GM has the same name as him. So, are you gonna turn that up an inch or two?
No.
If you guys can't tell, we're all wearing Cardinals Nation 24/7 shirts.
Yeah.
Chris's beard's in the way. I tried to drop the logo to give a little beard roomage, but you can see Larry's wearing his.
These are some sharp shirts. I'll give a little bit of a. I'll go low, but I won't go too low. They're sharp shirts. Appreciate Jared going out and getting those made for us. And he's wearing the black. He's looking pretty dapper over there in the black and red.
I like the black one. It turned out well. It was more of a test shirt. It was a test run. And I will take full credit, even though Larry found the supplier and Chris designed the logo. I just used my card.
That bobblehead giveaway too. That speaking of Jason Mott, a different Jason Mott, the giveaway for our last episode was sponsored by Jason Mott, and it was the Nolan Gorman Peoria Chiefs bobblehead. And I know we were going to do.
Yep, here it is. Here it is. Here. It's broken inside. It's in 3 pieces. You have to glue it together.
Gorilla Glue sponsored.
Yeah, it's a pretty good bobblehead. I have one of them. Oh, actually.
You're supposed to be sending me one, aren't you?
Yes, for $40.
Okay.
Here's what he looks like out of the box.
Pretty sharp.
Several years ago when we signed Gorman, when the contract became official, I released it on our Cardinals Nation Facebook page like 3 hours before it was
scooped him
the team because his grandfather had sent us a picture of him signing his contract. So yeah, it was pretty cool. That's what you'll be getting. This one's mine. It's not really broken. Or it wasn't last time I checked. But who is the winner of the Nolan Gorman bobblehead, Chris?
Well, I've got the names in the hat again. All the entrants that put in with the mystery word from watching our last episode, and I'll draw from that now. It will be Brad Kell. So, Mr. Brad Kell, you will be getting a Nolan Gorman Peoria Chiefs bobblehead sent to you. We want to remind everybody when we do these giveaways, which won't be every episode, what we ask of you is to send us a screenshot of your subscription to our YouTube channel. During the show of the giveaway, we'll be doing a mystery word throughout the show. You need to message our Cardinals Nation 24/7 Facebook page with that screenshot of the subscription and the mystery word. You'll be entered to win, and we will do the drawing the following week. We'll probably be doing these giveaways throughout the season. Not every episode, but it's a fun way for us to interact and give back to our listeners and subscribers, and helps us get the word out, and it gives you guys a chance at a free gift. It's a cool one, especially this week.
The next giveaway is going to be part of Chris's locks out of his beard. We're gonna have him clip an inch off.
I don't think anybody will.
Oh, there's a couple of women I think in the group, man. I'm telling you.
It comes with crackers and a little bit of a cheese sandwich.
Some Sprite on it.
There are surprises inside of the beard. It's like the jelly of the month.
That's the wrapping.
Yeah, it keeps on giving all year round, Clark. Other than this YouTube show that we have here, please follow us and join us on Facebook at Cardinals Nation Facebook group page, or the Cardinals page, Cardinals Nation 24/7. You can also find Chris on his separate audio podcast. Chris, tell them about that.
Yeah, I recently had started a kind of a side project, Cardinal Pets with Chris Lawless, that can be found on Anchor Podcast, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else that you can download and subscribe to podcasts. It's basically a Q&A with the Cardinals Nation 24/7 group members, as well as on Twitter. I just kind of will put a post out throughout the week. People ask random questions. I'll go over it in audio form and put that out once a week. And I know Jared does as well, have a little side project as well.
I do. It's Redbirds with Red Wine. It's basically with a minor league focus. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor are the main ones I know about. I know it goes to a lot of places, but I'm not sure where all it goes. Where I try to do that every week. I'm a little behind. Obviously, this is our main priority and focus is getting this one out, but I like to do it as a fun little side project. So my next episode is going to be covering the first couple of spring training starts and some of the players that have made their appearance that a lot of people don't know much about. So check it out if you can. Like, subscribe to there as well. But if you limit your time with podcasting, there's a lot of them out there and a lot of information coming to multiple people. This is the best place to go for because we discuss that and everything all encompassed. Sometimes we circle back, but those topics remain prevalent and stay in the forefront of things. So I want to make sure people are hearing everything. And you might not watch every episode. So we touch back and cover something we might have hit on in the past. I know you hear us saying, well, as we mentioned before, but you might not have seen those episodes. So we'll try to just bring you the latest news, what's going on Cardinal wise as of today. And we're 2 games in. There's a game tomorrow against the Mets. 12:05, televised on Fox Sports Midwest. So I'll be trying to check that out on my lunch break and on my phone. Chris is going to be doing detailed reports live from on Facebook Live on the group. He's going to give you play-by-play. He's going to turn on Danny Mack and Jim Edmonds and call the game for you. It should be exciting. So
Well, nobody can find it on TV anywhere, so.
do they not have Fox Sports Midwest?
A lot of people do not. So it's Dish Network has actually canceled Fox Midwest. Several of the local providers, cable channels, they've all done away with it. No, they don't even carry it.
You don't get it, Chris?
No, I get it. We have a TV, but yeah, a lot of the Dish Network quit carrying it. I know DirecTV. There's been some people that are a hit and miss on whether or not they've been getting it. A lot of the streaming devices is the route that people are going. So in the Facebook group, I know every day you're seeing a lot of people complaining that they're not getting their normal Fox Sports Midwest and asking ways to stream the game. It's kind of a touch and go, especially with Volley Sports Network buying out Fox Sports Midwest and how that's going to play into this season and next. But yeah, it's kind of right now up in the air on how to find it, but it's out there.
Again, how do you get Fox Sports Midwest again?
I get it through AT&T TV, and we get the sports package on AT&T TV, and it's
AT&T TV, not DirecTV.
Right, it's AT&T TV, yes.
Because I was just curious because I know AT&T owns them, but it's going to be selling them. But I saw the name change, but I have the baseball package, so I get the channels and I get the Fox Sports Midwest games, like it's been Danny Mack and Jim Edmonds doing the game. So to me, it's like I'm watching it back in Missouri. I don't notice any difference. I didn't know all that was. I've heard a lot of people talking about not being able to get the games this year, but you think they would figure that out because it'd be a huge ratings crusher if they don't.
This has been going on for 2 years. I mean, I've been here where I'm at. We went with Dish just because they had Fox Midwest, Fox Sports Midwest, and then they canceled it right after we signed up for a 2-year extension on our plan. And so it's been hit and miss when we can get it. So it is difficult for some people to find it.
What do you have there? Fox Sports in Ohio?
No, actually, Fox Sports here on ours is gone. We don't have any of them.
Oh, you don't even have Fox Sports, the main one?
Well, no, because what happened was here when they canceled Fox Sports Midwest for the Cardinals games, and then they black out the Cleveland and the Reds games, and I can't get the Chicago games, so I just canceled my sports subscription completely for Fox, so I don't even have Fox at all anymore. So it's hit and miss. It's hit and miss.
Don't move to Indiana, folks.
No, if you live in northern Indiana, you can watch the Cardinals, but if you live here, you can't.
Just don't go there, period. Everyone take.
Is that it? Yeah.
Don't go to Terre Haute?
Yeah, Terre Haute, yeah. For most people, please don't come here. I've talked to you on Facebook. Stay away.
But if you do, you can get some great insurance.
That's right. I know a guy. Especially if you're over 65.
It's not Jake. The guy's full of shit.
Not Jake. No.
That's all lies.
That's right.
But I think that's pretty much it for today's episode. I think we covered everything we wanted to, and then some, and rambled on a little bit. But I wanted to bring up the TV station thing because I know a lot of people have been talking about it. And your best resource in that case, that's one place where the group would benefit you. Usually, if you go in and post where's the game, people from all over the country or watching Cardinals baseball can tell you their resource for getting it. Some people do through Reddit, some people try different YouTube. People will get pretty creative when it comes to finding what they want to watch. So stay tuned if you have trouble finding a game that's supposed to be televised, especially when the season starts. Not so much now. There's only maybe 5 televised games or something like that on Fox Sports Midwest, and they've already needs to be the 3rd one tomorrow. So, but check MLB Network. I know they replayed the Washington Nationals and Cardinals game the other night. So make sure you're checking your listings. Ask people in the group. Other than that, I don't have anything else. It should be another good spring training week. Nothing major going on. Hopefully, Nicholas is okay and starts at least throws a side session. And we should be seeing KK make his debut soon, so that'll be interesting. So, Larry, do you have anything you want to throw out there before we shut her down?
Go Cardinals.
Chris?
I just want to thank everybody that's tuned in and watched these last, about month's worth of episodes that we've had of this podcast. It's great that we're growing at the rate that we have, and all the people liking and subscribing with great feedback and comments. Keep hitting that subscribe button, like and share this stuff out. It helps us out, helps us reach more Cardinal fans, and we tried our best to expand on the week that was in Cardinal baseball. So we appreciate everybody.
Yep. Thanks everyone for watching, and go Cards.
Go Cards.